Hey folks, welcome to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, man, it's been a while. We haven't recorded in probably a month. I see we've got a few listeners wondering where we've been, when everything is okay. It has been. You had a little time off. I had some time off. And it's just sort of the downtime. It's just kind of the way it happens, right? The NFL finally took a break, Carlos, the 1 month of the year that they do, which of course is July. So it's a little bit of the slow season. We've got our lives, but it's good to see. It's good to be back, and hopefully we still have a few listeners.
Yeah, I hope so. The problem with the slow season is that, teams aren't in season right now, but they're also not making, other than the Pistons firing the people at the top, they haven't made huge splashes in free agency, and, you had the draft in the NHL and you had your draft in the NBA, but it's just, I don't know, there's like a lack, and obviously the Tigers are struggling yet again. So there's like this lack of enthusiasm, I think, for what's happening with these teams as three of them go through the rebuild. The Pistons are resetting the whole thing again. And, other than your 9 or 10 basketball columns the last couple of weeks, Shawn, it has been a little slow.
Yeah, I did break away in the middle to write about something else. I don't even remember what it was, to be honest. To be honest with you, I who knows? Maybe it was a silly little football thing, but. Yeah, here's the other thing too. You probably see this. You people are going up north, or they're traveling, or they're just chilling out there. It's the time of the year that we slow down a little bit to gear up for late summer and into the fall and all that good stuff. But you're right. The Pistons have made a lot of news, and the Tigers haven't made as much news, but they do have an issue. Not an issue, but they maybe something to consider. Maybe it's more that fans want them to consider it, and they're not considering it all. And Tarik Skubal, and he's obviously they're by far their best player and their best trade chip. And a little bit later in the show, we can kind of delve into a little bit whether the Tigers should consider trying to get some prospects and maybe even a couple of hitters for him, how he fits on the timeline, how far away you think they're from contending, all that sort of stuff. We can get into that a little bit later. But yeah, let's dig into the the Pistons and the NBA, because their offseason is, despite their slippage in ratings and despite what I would call one of the most boring playoffs that I can remember in the NBA, that sort of fades away, and all of a sudden you get into the draft, and even though the draft wasn't great in terms of high-end prospects, at least what the experts think, they're always going to be good players, and a couple of great ones sprinkled through. And free agency, it's percolated back up. Carlos Amari Sankofa, the second, our beat writer for the Pistons, our fabulous beat writer, and I were talking about this the other day. His inbox has been more full than it's been since he's probably been on the beat. And the way people are responding to what he's read, there's been so much news, and the NBA just has a knack for kind of getting their stuff out in social media. And I don't know, maybe it's just the new way of the world, but what do you think so far? I mean, I guess just broadly, the Pistons starting all over again.
It's just depressing, because it's still, I think you wrote a column about, this is all about, Cade Cunningham, all the moves are about helping Cade. Does he play well with Jaden Ivey? Is that going to work? Is it not? We've always had, that's been the question from the beginning. Do you split them up? Do you play them together? How do they work together? Who do they add? Now they have Malik Beasley, which apparently, I guess you said the Pistons have never had a 3-point shooter in the history of their franchise, so it's good they added one. But
no, they added 3 of them. They've never had that kind of shooting on the wings, but the league's changed too. That was sort of a joke.
And, I think you said with Bickerstaff that it's, the next couple of years, like, don't, slow your roll. It's about helping the young core, helping the young players. So I think you're implying that it's going to be at least 2 years before you even can consider seeing a team that can get into the playoffs, which, I think that's reasonable when you consider where they're coming from, how bad the team was last year, how bad the performance was. And now you're doing, front office reset, a coaching staff, it's just, they don't have the answers. And, I'm consider, I don't know. I mean, you tell me, what do you think about Trent Langdon? And, I don't know, he had Zion Williamson in New Orleans. How many NBA championships did he lead them to, or conference championships, or even division championships? 0. So, okay, what's he bringing here? Is it just because he's buddies with Langdon? I mean, that with him and Bickerstaff, and they have a history or whatever. I mean, what can we expect? What's he going to do that's much different with this team?
Wait, who are you talking about? Langdon or Bickerstaff?
Langdon.
Well, build a roster.
He has the vision for how to put this team together.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, it's just another idea how to build a roster. And then can you get lucky a little bit? That's really the question. He wasn't the main guy in New Orleans, but he had a hand in some of their picks. The reason Langdon was on the radar for a lot of NBA people, and the reason the Pistons are taking a chance on him, is because the players that New Orleans traded for and drafted and developed the last few years are really good young players. That's why. I mean, Zion's different. He was the number one pick, right? They won the lottery, and that was kind of a no-brainer. You're going to take him. There was some folks that wanted Ja Morant, but it's funny. Ja has had his issues, but he's been a better player than Zion, right? I mean, he was a great player until he started having some of his issues. Zion just can't stay healthy. Last year was probably the healthiest he's been, but that's not what they got Langdon. They got him because they're hoping that the moves he made on the margins, just the roster construction, he can figure this out in Detroit. We'll see. They're at least trying to bring some modern stuff, which I think was good. We'll see. But yeah, to your point, man, they still don't know what they have. I mean, Cunningham, that partly it's not completely the Pistons' fault because Cunningham missed the second year, more or less. But they're still, and then, Cunningham showed flashes last year, but they don't know completely what they've got. So this first year is just going to be, okay, what can these guys do? What do we have? Let's put a few pieces around and see if we can get a better view. To me, that's what this is all about. They're putting a team out there. They're hoping to be a little bit more competitive. They brought some veterans in. I don't care how talented you are, how young you are. You can't win. You can't develop, more importantly, if you don't have at least some vets. That kind of losing takes a toll. It's hard to get better when you lose like that. It just is. It wears you out. And think about this, man. They can double their wins from this year to next. And how many games will that be? 28. Which will put them right back in the lottery. They can double their wins and they'll still be in the lottery. And we will say...
And still not move up in the lottery again. So
yeah, exactly. And we will all say, hey, the Pistons got better. They're showing improvement. They're on the right track. And they'll still be 28. So I assume that's what you mean by depressing, right?
Yeah. Who is the guy they sent to the lottery this year? Who was the representative for the Pistons? I
thought it was Thompson, right? Was it Stuart Thompson?
It might have been, but he had such an awful hangdog look when they announced
when they stayed. No, they haven't had a lot of lottery. They haven't had a lot of lottery luck. I mean, Detroiters think it's the curse of Detroit. Right? The Wings haven't exactly had haven't really moved up much to their spot either, have they?
Yeah, they haven't had much luck either, and they stayed put again this year. So,
well, let's go broad instead of breaking it down. They do such a good job of that on the Pistons Pulse and Amari's coverage, and I've written a lot about this in the columns. It's crazy how many I've written. But let me ask you just more broadly: why does this surprise you? This run of interest with the historically bad team. I mean, we've flooded the last couple of weeks with columns and stories and analysis from Omari and all sorts of stuff, breaking news, turning the screws sort of stories, in a way that you do for a stretch with the Lions or a team that's on a little bit of a run, and people have responded. And in some ways, it is one of our, I don't think I'm giving away any secrets here, as an editor said to me recently, we can't write enough about them right now. Now that's going to slow down here, especially after the summer league. But does it surprise you at all in this market that there's still so much interest in a team that's been historically bad?
Yeah, it does surprise me. It's a little chicken and the egg thing. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the, how the sausage is made, but some of it is self-fulfilling prophecy stuff of when we push stuff out more and we write a lot about it, there tends to be more interest. But also, I think it's also a function of, the lack of interest in the Tigers, and that there's really nothing else to look forward to right now in the sports landscape. The Tigers, it's all just about who are they going to, as you said, we're going to get into this, but how big of a seller are they going to be at the trade deadline? Not if they're going to be a seller. That rebuild is even more depressing. There's, guys going down to AAA. So, and what do you love about sports? The hope. And, your columns have all been about hope, and maybe, this is a sign of they're going to the modern NBA and the moves can get the most out of Cade. And Bickerstaff's the right coach. And, I mean, it's all about hope and promise. We don't know what's going to happen. But I think that's what people look forward to is where the Tigers, there is no hope. It's like we know, we see it. They're in season and the plane's going into the mountain. So like, okay, you're going to go there to maybe see, Skubal pitch, or you're going to see the Dodgers coming to town this weekend or whatever, but there's just really not a lot to want to go check out this team or follow this team. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the numbers are for baseball, but also, the NBA is an international sport. I mean, it's really probably the only true international sport when you think about it of the four, right? Almost everybody plays it around the world. Hockey's limited to mostly Western and Eastern Europe, but, not in the Latin America area. So there's a smaller segment there of fandom. So it makes sense. I think it makes sense in some way. But yeah, you write about it more. You cultivate that interest. I think that helps. I am surprised though. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but if they're doing great, yeah, that is a little surprising. That's what people, I don't know. And Cade also just signing his, the rookie max extension, $250 million, Shawn. Did you ever? Well, one day we're going to see $1 billion rookie extensions.
If we
live another 5 or 10 years, we'll see
it's coming. It's coming, Carlos, with inflation, right?
But it's all the hype. It's. I don't know. Maybe the Olympic years, is that part of it? People are more interested in basketball right now because the Olympics.
I mean, maybe it's. I don't know. It's what's hard to figure is that the playoffs, the regular season ratings, those continue to go down. I don't know if they've plummeted. They've gone down. This last year wasn't a great run for the playoffs. Weren't really that exciting, actually, if you like basketball. And I think a lot of people would tell you that. I wonder how much of this, to your point, yeah, internationally, yes, but also just the celebrity culture. And I was talking about this with somebody the other day. How about this? The biggest sports stars of the last, let's say, 30 years have been, Tiger of 30, 40 years. I mean, the two biggest stars, here's how, you tell me if you agree with this. To me, the two biggest stars of the last 40 years, American sports stars, cultural stars, are Tiger and Jordan. Brady is probably close, Tom Brady, right? But if you take away those three, we haven't really had a boxer. Maybe we've had a couple other football players, but most of the rest are all basketball players. I mean, the only baseball player I can think of that's been that big a star is Derek Jeter in terms of just the branding. But LeBron right now is probably, right? He's arguably the biggest star we have in this country. But yeah, you go back, you got Magic, you got Bird. There's just so many names of that sport that they're celebrities in a way. Football has had some. Baseball hadn't had one in a long time. And hockey hadn't had one since probably Gretzky. Connor McDavid, they had a bit of a moment.
I knew you were going to say Connor McDavid. I knew it.
No, what's interesting about Connor McDavid, though, is I was here and we were talking about NPR before we started. And I remember hearing a couple of weeks ago, ahead of Game 7, there was a little bit of crossover because of that Game 7 and because of Connor McDavid a little bit. And you can hear casual or non-hockey fans sort of interested in that. So they had a little bit of a moment, but it's still not LeBron level or, Tiger level or anything like that. So I don't know, Carlos. What do you think? The NBA's just produced the most celebrities for whatever reason. And our culture in the last 3 or 4 decades, outside of Tiger, Brady, a few other football players, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sure. That can be true. I don't know that it means much. It's just, they're in the limelight. They've also, television has a big deal, has a lot to do with the NBA. The NHL wasn't on ESPN for a long time. They made terrible TV deals, so it was hard to even watch the games. The NBA has been smart. They've been on every flipping channel, you can think of. And yeah, the games, the skill level is so much better. The pace of the game. They've done a lot, in the marketing and it helps that they have international reach. Every NBA elite star is probably known throughout the world because they play basketball in most of the world.
They're on Twitter, right? And they're on Instagram, and they date famous people.
Social media has a lot to do with it, and I think there's just to me in the NBA, it's just has always seemed more accessible that way. And that, football players look like robots. Baseball players, they're out in the fields in little tiny dots, and, NHL guys they all look the same uniform and the helmets and everything. But NBA players look, they just walked in, off their couch and they're in their pajamas and playing, and you see their faces and the emotion, and, you're literally closer to them. So it makes sense that they do connect more with fans probably. But yeah, the social media aspect, has definitely helped increase, and they're smart about it. They're smart about how they, and I think you've seen that in probably more in the NFL, where guys are trying to, improve the reach of their brands, but those careers tend to be pretty damn short in the NFL comparatively.
They do.
So there's difficulty there, but yeah,
They were,
Jordan, LeBron, for sure.
They're like soccer stars. They're more akin to soccer stars in Europe.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. They're celebrities
without the diving. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's a similar sort of celebrity and all that. And I just wonder, with that and social media, if that helps explain why the NBA has, the NFL has a year round. They have the biggest offseason by far, dwarfs everybody. But after the NFL, the NBA does have an offseason that sometimes is more interesting than the regular season. I think especially a lot of young people would tell you that's how they consume the NBA. A lot of these folks too, right? The clips, highlight packages that they see on Twitter or Instagram, or I don't know as much about TikTok. I'm not that young and hip, right? But you're
more of a buying guy. Yeah.
Let me. I saw a photo the other day, Carlos, and I don't remember where it was. I don't know if it was a Hall of Fame type of situation, but anyway, there was a table with Fred McGriff, Chipper Jones, Frank Thomas, Ken Griffey Jr. God, I'm trying to remember some of the other names. These were all players that were stars. They maybe weren't Derek Jeter level celebrities because of New York and, dating actresses and all that, or actors. But they were stars in the 80s and even into the 90s. They were players you'd go see. I remember riding my motorcycle down to Tiger Stadium in the late 80s or early 90s to go see Frank Thomas. I loved watching Frank Thomas play. Baseball's lost a little bit of that. I watched that I was looking at that photo of that table. I'm like, oh, right? It's really changed. Those guys were. I'm not saying that. The hitters are probably better now than they've ever been. It's not that. It's just the connection in that way.
Yeah, there's definitely been a cultural shift, I think, more away from the national pastime, and that's why you've seen them making changes like the pitch clock, because the game, tastes change. I was watching a clip, I don't know why, a couple of weeks ago on Twitter or something, someone posted something about some random hockey game from like 1954 between the Canadiens and the Rangers, black and white. This looked like a almost college hockey pickup game. There was just no fluidity. The puck was just bouncing off players left and right. Nobody had control. It was so scattershot and crazy. The skill level now is so different. The game changes, and baseball, has had too much standing around. If you like baseball, if you're a baseball fan, I think that it's hard to not appreciate, what some of the great players are doing right now.
Absolutely.
They're still, I hate Bryce Harper, but he's fun to root against to me. I like seeing him, come to the plate. I hate the Giants because I'm a Dodgers fan. I love watching something like, Shohei Ohtani. How can you not be riveted? And he's not pitching this year, but when he has been pitching and what he's doing, it's still fun. Mookie Betts is just an electric player, and I loved him when he was in Boston. So, but kids now. There's how many young kids? They're into EPL. English Premier League. You see English Premier League and even some Bundesliga stuff like on NBC Sports on the weekends. They show that rather maybe even than some MLS. I don't even know what the deal is with the MLS, but
it's really something.
People are root for, European teams and established stars more than they root for. I think Lionel Messi in Miami maybe is, I don't know what the metrics are on that, but it tends to be the guys at the end of their career come to the U.S. and play sometimes, but things change. And that's because the internet, accessibility, you can watch games from, all over the world. You don't have to wait. You can watch F1 if you want. So there's a lot more competition. So baseball used to just, you're going to watch it. You're going to watch the local TV station. You could watch it for free. And obviously we know the whole problem with Bally Sports and Comcast. But, that's another problem with baseball is that it's all on regional networks. So it's difficult if you have a problem with your provider to watch it. Because, everybody used to be on local TV and that's just what you'd watch and you'd listen to it on radio, blah, blah, blah. But it's just too much competition now. So, it makes sense that other teams, other sports have wedged their way into the consciousness.
Yeah, along with a lot of other things in society to do.
TikToks, your TikToks, yeah.
Yeah. But before we take a break here, just real quickly getting back to the Pistons for a sec. What do you think of the money and Cunningham and extended in 5 years? I'm worried he's going to be Grant Hill, that it's going to be extending him, and then in 2 or 3 years they're going to realize, maybe you don't build around him. Maybe the number one pick is not even though he's a really great player, he's a really good player. We've got to build a team a different way. Someone is maybe going to have a better idea. If it doesn't work if the next couple of years don't tell us a lot, I think you're going to, it's going to be a concern, and maybe you have to move away from him. If you can't figure out how to use him, how to help him, how to build around him, whatever, as great a player as Grant Hill was, they never would have won a title without, trading him and getting something else and changing the whole dynamic and direction of how they were going to build that team, a new coach, Carlisle and all that. So I don't know. I worry about that. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope that doesn't, because if they're going to struggle, if they're going to force it to have to work with Cade and it's not working, how long are you going to be tied to that? So that's the only question is with his contract is just, you're committing quite a bit to him, but it's just, as we said, it's crazy money. So, it's, 5 years, right? Quarter bill right around there. It's almost quarter bill. Yeah, not quite. 220, 224 for 5 years. They could have traded him. They could have traded him.
I think it's too early. I do think it's a little too early to trade him, but
especially if he'd had 3 full healthy years and a little bit better roster and he's still kind of good but not great, then yeah, you don't extend it. But I don't think they thought they had enough information, and I totally understand that. Not only that, Scotty Barnes, who plays for Toronto, just signed a $200+ million contract, same class as, I think it's the same class as Cunningham. Franz Wagner just signed $200+ million for Orlando. It's crazy, and neither of those players are as good as Cunningham, or I don't think have the ceiling. Maybe Barnes does if he ever develops a jump shot, but that's a big if. You see that with the Pistons, with Thompson, he just drafted somebody in Ron Holland. It's always if he can shoot. Some guys do learn to shoot. Jaylen Brown just won an NBA championship. He didn't shoot at all coming out of college. Turned himself into a great shooter. So it can happen, but the money it's just silly money. And teams like Detroit, Orlando's ahead of Detroit. Toronto's not much ahead of them. They are ahead of them a little bit, but record-wise a little bit, I don't know that I'd trade their assets. So for the Pistons, you almost have no choice if you're in a market like this. You got to kind of pay your guy and hope that he develops, right?
Yeah. And that's the problem too, right? Is that you haven't had anyone else emerge. You haven't developed or had anybody else emerge where it's like, well, maybe this will work. Maybe we can move away from, it's like he's your one really marketable guy that you have on the team. And it's also a business, right? So how many Cade jerseys are there out there? Probably all of them when you go to the game. So, I wouldn't imagine that they would have done anything else, especially with a new regime coming in. And it buys them some time, to try to, like you said, figure things out and see what they have.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Do you think he's part of the key moving forward? If you had to guess right now, is he going to be the one to lead them to a division title, to the Eastern Conference Finals?
It depends on the team around him. I think he's got the goods in him, assuming health, assuming that he gets better, like a lot of young players do. The best players get better every year, right? They just do. I think he's got the the countenance, the will, the desire, all those things are there. Can he get lucky and stay healthy? Can he put a little strength on? Yeah, I think he's got a ceiling to be a top 15 player, not necessarily a top 2-3 MVP candidate, but a top 15 player. And if you have one of those guys on a good roster, you can make a run in the playoffs. So maybe you're not going to win a title, but you can make him a run and play relevant basketball for a while. So I definitely think he's got that in him. We'll see if he gets there. It's interesting. Yeah, they didn't move. They haven't moved any of their young guys. They might still. I mean, who knows? Maybe they can move Isaiah Stewart or something. I don't know at this point, but it seems to me like they didn't want to. Langdon wanted to see. All right, hey, Jalen Duren, we got some issues. He's got a lot to work on, but we don't want to give up on him just yet. Same with Jaden Ivey. Langdon said, "Can Ivey and Cunningham play together?" He thinks they can. Now he's got to go. He's got to build a team around him and then get the right coaches in there to help develop to show that he's right. That's what this is all about. So. We'll see, man. It's just still hard to fathom they won. I don't mean to chuckle, but did they won 14 games a year ago? So I mean,
you can laugh about it now, can't we?
Yeah, right. I mean, you almost have to. Fans almost have to, right? But the early signs are that they've got a few established veterans in there guys, most importantly, who play. Watch, they're all going to get hurt now because we're jinxing them, but traditionally have played. They're available, especially Tobias Harris, right? They're available, and that's really hurt them the last couple of years. So they got veterans that are available and they can shoot a little bit, and so we'll see if that helps the young guys. We'll see what happens. By the way, real quick, Grant Hill wanted to leave. He left as free agent, and he left as a free agent to Orlando. He didn't want to stay here, right? For a few reasons.
Could you blame him? Yeah.
No. But somehow they ended up, if I'm not mistaken, they ended up getting Ben Wallace back. Maybe it was a sign and trade. It's been a long time. I should have looked that up. But yeah, and that ended up working out. And then Hill got hurt. One of the great what ifs of the last 20 years. You're talking about players because he was on his way to being an MVP of the league, and then he got hurt. Anyway. Any other thoughts on this 14-win team that's dominated our first podcast in a month?
No, I think we've had a really good episode of the Basketball Times, so it's probably time to move on to other pastures.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break and come back and talk about Tarik Skubal a little bit and another depressing rebuild in Detroit Tigers. No, it's actually not depressing. It's very exciting. Please don't go. I mean, please stay with us. We'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carlos and Shawn. Carlos, let's talk about your favorite sport.
Highlight.
Oh, highlight. Okay. Yeah, I think it's baseball. I know you love hockey, but I think it's baseball. You mentioned earlier in the show that the Tigers are kind of scuffling. They're not super interesting, but they have a dominant player in Tarik Skubal, and the trade deadline's a couple of weeks away, and fans are, I don't know if they're split. I don't know what the percentages are, but he's been a topic lately because people are grasping on to anything that can move the needle one way or the other. Oh, should we trade him? Maybe get some prospects, help the rebuild. He's not going to line up. Or no, do we keep him? We're tired of trading away players for prospects that don't work out. You know what I mean? And or did they make they made a mistake with Michael Fulmer? They could have traded him at the height of his powers before he got hurt, right? And they didn't. They kept him. So. But then there's no guarantee the prospects work. With Skubal, he might be so good you could probably get a proven hitter along with some prospects. I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think this has become such a topic?
Yeah, because nothing else to hope for. So, hope is always something that will stoke interest, and it's a path. It seems like there's a path forward. It seems like someone's doing something, right? You're not just standing still, so I can understand it. I don't think, to me, to get prospects, you could assign people in the offseason, the whole Matt Chapman thing, and, you could assign some bats in free agency if you really wanted to help. But right now, to get some young prospects who may or may not work out, for a proven guy who's, looks like he's going to win the AL Cy Young, and gives you a reason to come to the park. And I don't know with this regime how much they take into account, the Verlander Scherzer stuff of, especially Verlander letting them go. And that's the other part of it, right? Is Skubal is going to be good. He's going to go, if you trade him, wherever he's going to go, he's going to be good, if not better, getting probably even more help playing on a contender. And that's just hard to watch for fans. They've already had to go through it with Verlander. So I wouldn't, and he's got 2 more years of control. I don't know how much that changes the market. If the price is, much better, if they get more return with that much more control, or if they wait until the offseason, or if they wait, does the market heat up? I don't know how hot the market is right now for someone like him. Is there someone, who really needs a dominant lefty to, on their staff? But from the Tigers' perspective, this just kind of hasn't worked out for them in the past. So I would rather have him stay at least another year. Maybe this rebuild takes a step forward in another year, and you don't have to get rid of him. I think those, he has turned into such a good player for them. Those guys just don't come around that often. And how many guys, how many pitchers have not worked out? Are, the Casey Mize and these guys, Matt Manning and all these, and Boyd and Turnbull, and, it's just like been one after another. You going back to Fulmer, who had a couple of good years, but then got hurt, and so when you finally have a dude who could be the cornerstone, you should be the cornerstone of your rotation, for a while more, 5 to 10 years or whatever it might be, keep him if you can. I mean, I think that if you believe in this rebuild for Scott Harris, take your time, keep him on the roster. Maybe next year, maybe in the second year, maybe whatever. If the pitching has developed and there's some insane offer, for him, and you trade a bat for an arm, and it's a really great established hitter, and you're close to maybe winning or contending for the division title and getting it, maybe that circumstance changes. But right now, for hoping betting on the future, betting on, will these guys work out? We're not. I don't think they're there yet. I think they haven't shown enough progress with the players they have to say that, whoever we're going to get, we're going to turn them into studs, So, and I mean, I think if you're a fan, he's one of the few reasons to go watch a game. So I hope they don't deal. I mean, what do you think, Shawn? You need something to write about. So you want some movement, right? You want some action.
It's interesting because you brought up Michael Fulmer, and I remember writing that they should have traded him before he got hurt, because I didn't think he lined up with the timeline with them at all. And it turns out he did, and then he did get hurt. I mean, that was just, I don't know what they could have gotten for him. Skubal, I mean, Fulmer was really, really good there, right? For the 1 year in particular. Skubal is so good, he might get more than prospects. He might get an actual hitter, major league hitter, current major league hitter, right? And part of what makes him so attractive too is what is he, 27 or so? He's under contract for another couple of years, and he's making $2.6 million right now. He's got arbitration for the next 2 years, so that money will go up, but it's not going to go up to anywhere near what he's worth.
Right.
Which is probably $30 million a year, right? So,
right.
I mean, he's the best bargain the Tigers have had in a while.
Yeah.
You're talking about maybe the most dominant pitcher in the league, in the American League, making $2.5 million a year. And what will they go up to? 10, 12 next year? I mean, you know what I mean? It's
whatever it is, it's still way under his value.
Yeah. So that also makes him even more attractive. Whoever gets him is going to.
Yeah, but even if you trade him, I'm just saying, trade him to the Phillies for Bryce Harper, straight up, whatever, who's going to protect Bryce Harper? Colt Keith in the lineup? I mean, like,
yeah, no, you have to get a younger hitter than Bryce Harper, right? I mean, when you want
whoever it would be, you could get Ohtani. It doesn't matter. Like, there's nobody. This lineup is so terrible that it's not going to one at bat, 4 at bats a game without a solid lineup to help that team, to help that hitter, isn't going to do you much good. It's got to work together, and they don't have enough bats right now in that lineup to do anything. Don't. So you're not at that point yet,
No, I understand the idea, because he's so valuable that he might get a couple of really good prospects and maybe a hitter. And maybe that's worth it if those prospects hit. The problem is, what's the percentage on the prospects hit? So you go get a good hitter. That's great. And you get a couple prospects thrown in there. We've seen how that's worked, right? I mean, look, I thought they should have done with Fulmer because of the timeline, but this guy's even different from Fulmer. To me, it's like, Verlander was older. At least Verlander had done some winning here. Same with Scherzer, but Scherzer's the one that they probably should have paid. I mean, did they get anything from either of those guys, really?
No.
I mean, and so there's some PTSD that way too. Not with Scott Harris, but with the fan base.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I mean, as if, when you follow the Tigers a little bit and, the social media chatter and whatever, there are people who bring up, whatever it is, the stat line every night for Matt Chapman or whatever, like, this is who we could have had. This is what we should have done. This is, and it's always the what if game. And, I think in a year you'll have a better idea of where you are as a team and where you are in the rebuild. And, he'd still be very attractive with another year of team control after next year. So I would hold on to him. I'd wait. I don't think there's a reason. I think people would be, unless this was some, grand slam haul, every prospect in the Dodgers organization or something like that. I just don't see. I think this would be really unpopular with the fan base to see him go this early. But
with some.
With everybody, I just don't see who would be rooting for this. Just
there are a lot of Tigers fans out there that want to see him get shipped because they don't have any faith it's going, and they want the prospects. But I've read
good luck.
I've read comments that people liken it to what the Lions did with Stafford. But the difference is, it's a lot
Stafford
easier.
Asked to leave. He wanted to leave. Not
only that, the difference is it's a lot easier to draft in the NFL than it is to find the draft in baseball.
Oh, for sure.
Prospects. There's a huge difference there, right?
Huge. I mean, it's not it's apples and oranges.
I've seen Stafford mentioned a lot the last couple of weeks. I'm like,
stupid.
I'm not saying everybody can draft in the NFL. I'm not trying to diminish what Holmes and these guys have done. But the idea that it's the same as baseball, it's like baseball is much more like hockey, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah,
it's crazy. No, you can't even give that
it's
credence.
A roll of the dice. It's a roll of the dice, isn't it?
It is. And as we know, how many, where is, hey, what would be a good trade is, how about a number 1 overall pick? Maybe let's say a power hitting first baseman out of Arizona State. Oh yeah, that's Spencer Torkelson. Where's he right now? How's he helping you right now? That's the problem, is it's just a guess. There's some guys work out, some guys don't, but you have a proven winner right now. The best pitcher in the American League, probably, to get rid of him.
Was under contract for 2 more years, right?
2 more years.
You might be able to become competitive. You might be able to,
at least in a year, you'll know a little bit more. And it does take a while to, for Harris and his buddies to institute their system and, get what they want and all that and change the approach. But it just wouldn't make sense to me to and like you said, young guy's 26, 27, whatever he is, just in beginning the prime of his career, to ship him out for guys that you don't know are gonna work out. And the only thing I'm worried about is Scott Harris likes to do things early. He likes to, seems like, jump the gun. He wants to sign Cole Keith to all this guaranteed money, whatever it was, a 10-year contract or something. And, ostensibly to save money, get a good deal while you can. He extend AJ Hinch before he has to get a good deal before the prices go up on managers or something. I don't know. He just seems like a little bit aggressive that way. So maybe, hey, it's as good as it's going to get, or we can get whatever this haul is for Skubal, and then afterward, it'll be explained as well. Tarik wanted to join a contender, and, I'm happier here. And we didn't know how long the was going to take, and this is the right move, and the these prospects and this hitter and that hit. It doesn't make sense. I didn't like the AJ Hinch extension. I don't think they needed to do that. The Cole Keith thing, like, okay, whatever. It wasn't that much money. You're just kind of sort of committing to him. That's the only weird thing is, but he's doing okay. So I don't know. I don't think it makes any sense really right now to do it. I'd be surprised.
Or just spend some money if you want to extend him next year. Try.
You can always spend money. If Chris Ilitch can find his wallet, you can spend some money.
You can spend money and extend him, and then just worry about it's a
good problem to have.
We've got our ace for a while, health provided, right? So, and we'll worry about other things. You have that luxury in baseball. You can do that. There's no salary cap. Maybe he doesn't want to spend until he sees a little bit more, but hey, you can lock up one of the best. I don't want to call him young pitchers, but he's not. He's just kind of gotten into his prime, right? So he's in the middle of his prime, and some of these pitchers go forever. So, in any case, all right. So let's take one more quick break and come back with Carl's favorite thing. We'll be right back with more Free Press Sports with Carl and Shawn. Welcome back to Free Press Sports with Carl and Shawn. Let's wrap this up with your favorite thing and get listeners out of here and get you back to your life. You're going to take some more time off, I hope, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully soon.
Well-deserved time.
Yeah, and that's actually, this is a little tied to it. I have two quick favorite things. One was I had a long holiday weekend for 4th of July, and I got to one of my favorite little genres of movies is I'm a sucker for like special ops, special warfare guy, SEAL team, Delta Force, those kind of people. Like movies about that, about special operations, commandos, doing raids. And those two movies I was looking forward to watching for a while. Land of Bad with Russell Crowe, just I think out on DVD or whatever. And Triple Frontier, that's Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac. I think it's on Netflix. And I finally got a chance to sit down and just watch them at night when everybody had gone to sleep.
A movie or a series?
A movie. They're both movies. Triple Frontier.
What's the Pedro Pascal name?
Triple Frontier on Netflix.
Triple Frontier. Okay.
It's like a group of former, whatever they are. I think they're Delta operators from the Army, and they kind of go on this mission after they're out of the military. And then the other one, Land of Bad, was really pretty good movie, Shawn. It kind of got not great reviews, and Russell Crowe got a lot of acclaim for his role as a drone pilot. He was very good, but Liam Hemsworth surprised me in this role. He was very good in the role he was like an Air Force guy. I don't know what the technical name was, but he was kind of helping the drone pilot know where the coordinates were. A really enjoyable movie if you get a chance to see it, but I just really loved it. My other favorite thing was because of vacation, and I'm going to see my sister, and she's a tennis player, and we like to play when we see each other. So I was practicing, and I have a little like practice tennis thing that you can hit the ball and practice your, whatever, backhand and topspin and all this. But then my daughter Audrey's home from college, and she was asking about it and asked, can we go play tennis? Can you, show me? She's never played. I was like, sure. So I went and bought her a racket. We went and hit around a little bit, and it was fun. It's just fun to have your kid. My kids weren't into sports when they were young, never pushed them, encouraged them, but never pushed them. But we just had fun going to the court and, showing her some of the hits and some of the movements and the strokes and how to serve and all that stuff. And so it was enjoyable to do that, even though, they're getting older, but spending a little bit of time doing that I didn't get to do when they were, 11 or 12, when they would have been into sports. And you and I both love tennis. So I'm looking forward to playing against my sister and maybe practicing with my kids a little bit.
And when's that going to happen?
Cool. A couple weeks, probably.
Well, I hope you enjoy your break and take a break. By the way, Triple Frontier, solid cast. Each actor delivers a great performance apart from Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck was actually good in this role as he was controlled. He wasn't too Ben Affleck-y. There was just one, I will say there's one plot point or device or whatever writing that is a little bit unbelievable that has to do with his character that kind of takes you out of the movie a little bit. Like, well, this really would never have happened based on the character that they portray him as. But but very good acting. Yeah, very Charlie Hunnam is really good, and it's a really good cast. It's fun.
Yeah, I like Charlie Hunnam. Compelling high story with lots of tension, but little character development. While the action itself is vividly shot and often quite tense, the characters are so thinly drawn it's impossible to connect with them. Sounds like your kind of guys.
Well, these are special forces guys. They're not touchy-feely.
No,
Let's talk about it. How did you process this? When we shot at the bad guys 800 times, But yeah, that's and Landon.
Sounds like my kind of movie. Sounds like what we would say in this household is a good bad movie.
A good bad movie, yeah. That's what the special forces movies are. Good bad movies, and they're like, with the exception of like Zero Dark 30 or something like that. It's Hurt Locker, but that's not even special forces. The Hurt Locker, but
Hurt Locker, yeah, that's a different level. I mean, that's an actual, yeah.
But it's that's so. So if you guys are into commando military stuff, those are fun.
It's not military, but it's there's a 6-part series on Netflix that's been out. It's 5-6 years old right now, but called The Bodyguard. You might like that. It's a British about a former soldier goes to Afghanistan, comes back, gets assigned to the Home Secretary to guard her. It's really, really well done. It's just 6 shows
on Netflix.
On Netflix, called The Bodyguard. You might like it.
Oh, okay. And Whitney Houston's in it, and she sings part. And
the acting is great. It's just sort of riveting. The producer, the story, a showrunner, I guess he's called Judd or Jed, maybe Mercurio. He's the guy behind Line of Duty, which is one of the great cop shows the last 20 years coming out of England. It's just fabulous. But so it's taut and intense. You might like it. You might like it. Maybe give it 10 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And see what you think. Called The Bodyguard. All right, my favorite thing. It's just, you mentioned it earlier. I was thinking about this with the we're writing about the Pistons and covering the Pistons and the sort of unlikely connection. You were talking about hope, man. You're right. It's not that hope's my favorite thing. I'm just grateful for it, because you were talking about how people need hope and fans. I mean, that's just true of our species in general. But in sports, we don't have jobs without it. Because why are people coming back? There are no pro teams without it. If you didn't have any kind of hope, you wouldn't go back the next year. You just give up. So it's the reason our whole industry exists. I mean, it's what keeps it going. If we didn't have that, we're too cynical a lot. We're too, to exist with long runs of mediocre or worse play, whatever your team is. Right? Because the math, I can't get that out. The math says in order to love a team, you're going to have to suffer for a long time. And maybe you get lucky. Maybe you have the middle of your life from the time you're 15 to 40 or whatever, and you hang on to, and you're in New England, and the Patriots are good for 20 years. But that's rare. It's rare to love something, and in this world of ours, you got to suffer, and the best way to ease that suffering is with hope, because you can't suffer 360, every day of the year, right? And I was just reminded of that a little bit. Somehow, I was just thinking, I keep writing all these columns about the Pistons, thinking, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but why does anybody care? They won 14 games. It's sort of silly, but they do, because they do care, because they love the team, and it's an old team it's a proud franchise with a lot of history to it locally. They were still somehow drawing 10,000 people a night occasionally last winter, right? I mean, anyway, and they weren't just there to say, "Hey, sell the team," chant "sell the team," although some of them were. But anyway, no, that was all. That was all. Just another reminder of why we get to do what we do, and grateful to do it for a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's thank Robin Chan, and I don't want to thank anybody else. These people are.
I'm thinking Nicole Avery Nichols, our editor, because you're gonna stop seeing paychecks if you don't.
Yeah, okay.
I like the paychecks. That's why we do what we do.
Let's thank her too. Robin makes this possible. I mean, our committee of sports editors, they make this possible too. Let's shout them out. Why not? Andrew Burkle, Marlo Alter, Ryan Ford. They're keeping us together, right? They're holding this thing together for everybody right now.
Yes.
They deserve a shout out. So, but who do we want to thank mostly, Carlos?
Me. I've been working really hard. What are you talking about?
You have.
Our one fan, we have a listener who was asking a few days ago about, well, what's going on with the show, and you guys coming back or whatever. And so, yeah, without the listener out there, we haven't. That's how we have no show, without the listener, Shawn. So
no, we want to thank the listeners. Yeah, no, we've been a Lions-centric podcast for a bit. You know, it happens. You had the draft and minicamp, rookie minicamp. You know, yeah, there was a lot of Lions stuff there for a bit. So that's kind of what we centered on. They took a break. We need to take a break, but we're back. We'll probably take another break or two. I'm just warning y'all before we really get into it when football breaks in 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks. Is it really?
Yeah.
It's the end of July, bud. It's really here, isn't it?
Every year, same time.
Well, I thought it used to be early August, but now I guess it's, who knows?
This just shows how you have not come to Lions camp until they started getting good, buddy.
I'm just
end of July for the last.
I'm just misremembering. You know, in my mind, it's always August, but no, you're right. It's always the end of July.
Preseason games are in August. Yeah.
End of July. Yeah. So anyway, all right. Thank y'all.
Shawn will be there.
Thank you, bud. Good to see you. Thanks for listening, y'all. And we'll be back soon with more Free Press Sports with Carlson Show.